Let's go on to our last team here, and it's the Jacksonville Jaguars. The bulk of the topics, or the bulk of the talk with this Jaguars team, really, I think, goes to the running back position with James Robinson and Travis Etienne. AJ, how high are you drafting James Robinson? Obviously, his ADP right now has him going around in the 90th pick. That right there, I mean, maybe that's your spot. But how high are you drafting him? Or maybe are you just waiting for him to drop and then get that value from him?
And I think he will drop. I couldn't go any higher than round 8. And I wouldn't. To other people who really want James Robinson, I wouldn't go any higher than round 8. And that's like, you're hoping to hold on to him. Like, at that point, I hope you also have ETN. Because in my opinion, like, he tore his ACL in week 16. He's still rehabbing, and they're giving you so much smoke and mirrors on when he's supposed to come back. Is it week 1? No. Is it week 4? We don't know. I've heard November. I've heard December. Like, I've heard so many different things about when he comes back. Now, I will say this. Doug Peterson says when he's healthy and when he comes back, he sees him as a 3-down back and wants to use him for a heavy workload. So I think you're looking at a backfield that could be similar to, and not their talents, but the usage of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Like, Travis Etienne will get the run because I do think he's going to show out the first couple weeks, but I just don't know what to trust. Like, if he comes back and Travis Etienne's been going great, are we only seeing James Robinson for the first 3 or 4 weeks at the goal line vulturing touchdowns? You like that, but you don't know if it's going to help you as often as you want it to be until he's really working. So at the highest, I would say the 8th, but me personally, I'd pick him up if he drops to me in the 10th. That's me, I'd stay away. I've had my fun with him, so you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, someone else can grab.
I like the potential of James Robinson. We discussed the ADP value between him and what you are very high on Chase Edmonds. You think he's going to could be a running back 1 this season, which is just mind blowing. But I like where James Robinson is going in drafts. So I think I would take him at his ADP right now. He's actually going as the RB 37 at pick 103. So you are looking at him around that 8th, 9th round. I think that is the sweet spot for me. I think I would take him at that value because we've seen what James Robinson can do. Obviously, coming off of a very severe injury, I think that definitely brings up some concern. And obviously, Travis Etienne now being there, taking away some carries, taking away some targets, matters a lot. I do just think, though, talent will prevail when it comes to James Robinson, and he'll still be a very good running back when he is on the field and return that value, if not surpass that value as the RB37.
You say prevail, but I mean, like, he's not going up against a scrub, and I know we haven't seen Travis Etienne in the NFL, but I mean, like, we were ready for him to come out a year sooner because of how explosive he was, and then he went back and just did it again. And I know this only matters so much, but he's with this guy. He's with T-Law, ready to go again. That chemistry, like, that's the chemistry that I can think about. It's still fresh. It's not like, and I still think they're going to be good, but it's not like Derek Carr and Devontae Adams. That's years removed. We're talking about 2 seasons. We're talking about the same year, and Trevor Lawrence now has 1 year in the NFL and can tell him how he needs to operate coming into the league to work with him the right way. So you say talent prevails, but we're talking about 2 very talented guys.
I always, and you guys can laugh at me all you want about this, I always felt bad for James Robinson in this situation once they drafted Travis Etienne, just because the fact that, like, Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, they're boys, and now James Robinson just gets pushed off to the side, watching his quarterback now fall in love with his running back. He's his boy, and now he's just the ugly duckling in that running back group. But he's not, because I think James Robinson is a very good running back. Go ahead, Aaron.
Well, first off, people are really high on Travis Etienne, and I think he's going to play a role, but I think people forget how much usage he had at Clemson. Injuries are a factor with this guy. You're talking about a guy that had almost 700 carries in college. He's got to prove that he can stay healthy. I don't see him as being an every down back in the NFL. So I do believe that James Robinson has a role when he comes back. And James Robinson has proven to be a really, really good running back. 3 downs. I think you're going to run into a situation where, to what AJ's point, I do think this is more of a Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt type situation, with Etienne being used a little bit more in the passing game, even with James Robinson on the field. I think that's ultimately what will happen. And I like it. I like the idea of that. It still remains to be seen what kind of fantasy output James Robinson's going to have, though, coming off of the injury. That's the biggest deal here. Are you going to be able to wait for him? Or are you going to have to reach on him? I believe a lot of people are going to shy away from James Robinson early. So I do believe there's chances where he's dropping into the 10th and 11th round, just because people are going to realize he's not ready for training camp, and they're going to kind of shy away thinking, oh, this is Etienne's backfield, and once he gets the job, he's going to run away with it. I don't believe that to be the case. So if you can get James Robinson as a steal, 11th, 12th round, and everybody's passing on him, you take him, you sit him down for the first half of the season, and come the second half of the season, you could have a nice RB2.
So do you think that Travis Etienne can be do you think Travis Etienne as an RB2 is too rich, or do you think that's a sweet spot for him?
No, he's a flex. he's a flex to me at best. I don't believe he's going to be an RB2.
Right now he is as the RB23 and going with the 48th pick. So like this is
behind guys, there are guys that are behind him. For instance, AJ Dillon I'd probably have ahead of him. Miles Sanders I'd probably have ahead of him. Damian Harris I might have ahead of him. He's not going to get enough volume in that offense to start, because number one, he's not a volume back. He's not going to be a volume back like that in that offense. They're going to have to throw. Most of his work is going to come from the passing game. They don't score a lot of touchdowns, so his touchdown numbers are not going to be very high. I see a lot of Travis Etienne games as 11 carries, 52 yards, 5 catches, 36 yards, like stuff like that.
So let me throw this perspective out there, though. Like, I get what you're saying. Like, they don't score a lot of touchdowns. You're going to have to throw, so on and so forth. We know Doug Peterson wants to throw. But when you say their offense won't and will do this, I mean, we don't know this offense anymore. Like, what they had last year was atrocious, first off. And now Doug Peterson comes in and implements something completely different. They have weapons, so to speak.
Well,
at least more weapons than last year.
We know it's a second-year quarterback who didn't look very good last year, with a bunch of new weapons that they have to acclimate. So I'm sorry, but
developed.
My point, you expect a lot from this offense being an undeveloped in the first year of a new system.
I expect more. I don't think he's gonna throw 16 interceptions. I don't think that's gonna happen. I think he does find the end zone a couple more times. I think Travis Etienne can bail them out a couple more times. I don't think they're going to be world beaters. I heard some dumb shit earlier that someone's like, they can be this year's Bengals. I don't see that. But I don't think we're looking at a team that's just as putrid as they were last season.
I would love for the Jaguars to be this year's Bengals.
Yeah, I just want to watch it come out a little bit.
Yeah. But so what do you guys think? Do you think this matters at all? What with you brought up Doug Peterson coming in, implementing a new system, new offensive coordinator, Press Taylor comes in as well. He used to be the senior offensive assistant for the Colts, quarterbacks coach for the Eagles under the Doug Peterson era. Does that matter at all to you guys when looking at like the progression of a Trevor Lawrence and maybe the fantasy progression of Trevor Lawrence? The finger. He's giving us the finger.
No, I was just waiting to see if my internet was going to come back up. First of all, Doug Peterson's going to call the plays. So Doug Peterson's really the one developing Trevor Lawrence. It's not Press Taylor or whoever the hell you want to talk about.
Hey, man, don't disrespect Press Taylor.
But I didn't – my internet went out, and I didn't really get a chance to respond to AJ's point about that, the new offense and all that stuff. I'm not saying they're not going to be better. They can't be worse. Their offense was atrocious last year. I mean, it was absolute dog shit. But James Robinson only had 700 yards last year.
Yeah, they did not use him the way they used him the year before. And that was something that got to me, actually, was the fact that James Robinson was used so heavily in 2020. And then 2021, there was weeks where they'd have him with 20 carries, and then another week they'd have him with 5. Like it just was, and like I don't know how that comes back. Like to have a year like that following the big year you had, and then be injured. So that's kind of one of the things that I'm like that worries me a little bit. And again, when I say worry, I don't know when he's coming back. That's the biggest issue for me at that point in time. Vinny,
I think he's gone. I
jumped in full. I responded in kind. Nowhere near probably what he was gonna say, but just picked him.
I'm just hopeful as a Jags fan, man. I'm just hopeful. Okay, there he is. He's alive. He's alive. Go ahead, Aaron.
I'm so sorry.
I'm not alive. Not really. Jaguars suck.
Could you draft? Did it sound like I was just talking over you while you were talking on your screen?
No.
Or could you see that you were okay? Because I was wondering about that. I was like, he probably
enough of this small talk, Aaron. Your connection's great right now. Finish off.
Let's talk about Christian Kirk. I love the value of a Christian Kirk this year, just because I do see the improvement in Trevor Lawrence. But make no mistake about it, the Jaguars are going to have to throw a lot, which is why I don't think Travis Etienne will reach much better than running back 2, because they're going to be behind in games. They're not good enough to take leads and keep leads. Like, they're going to throw a lot. Christian Kirk, Marvin Jones are going to be the focal point of that. I've all but given up on Laviska Shenault and stuff. So, but I do think Christian Kirk is going to play a role in this offense. I do believe there's going to be some bubble screens, some quick stuff around line of scrimmage, and he is electric with the ball in his hands. He can get downfield. The biggest thing here was protecting Trevor Lawrence, and I think they addressed the offensive line that will allow these guys to get down the field, and they'll be able to make big plays. So Christian Kirk, I like where his value is going right now, kind of as an underrated guy.
Let me see it. This may be wrong, and I'm just throwing it out there. What similarities do you see between like an Alshon Jeffrey and a Marvin Jones Jr.? Very similar players or not similar players? Am I ridiculous to say that?
I mean, I would look at them both as possession receivers, but I think Alshon Jeffrey had a little bit more explosiveness when it came to like contested catches. I mean, Marvin Jones is somebody who can do it, but any wide receiver worth his gloves should be able to make some contested catches. Whereas Alshon Jeffrey, if you threw it up, he was going to get it. That was the era of the Georgia big boys. You know what I mean? And I don't know if Marvin Jones has that in him, but he's consistent and he's trustworthy. When you throw Marvin Jones the ball and he's going over the middle, he's probably coming down with it, in my opinion.
So the reason why I asked that is because I said this last year about Marvin Jones, and I was very wrong. I don't want to say very wrong, but like I was high on Marvin Jones last year with Trevor Lawrence coming in, and I thought that Trevor Lawrence and Marvin Jones had a connection that would put Marvin Jones as the wide receiver 1 on that team. And I think there is something to say about Marvin Jones having a second year with Trevor Lawrence. And I know Christian Kirk's value, and I know that he's a good player, and I'm not saying he's not going to be the number 1 receiver on that team. But don't be surprised if Marvin Jones ends up being a fantasy relevant flex option this season.
Stop. You sound like every other person that has mentioned Marvin Jones' name for the past 10 seasons. It's the same thing with Marvin Jones every year. He either starts really good or have like 3 games where he has 2 touchdowns, and they're like, oh, this is the year. He's the same every year. At the end of the season, you look at his numbers, he's not getting 1,000 yards. He's going to be right around 6 to 9 touchdowns. He'll have a decent year. He'll be a wide receiver 4, and we'll call it a day. Like, no. There's no second year with Trevor Lawrence. There's no second year with any quarterback. The guy couldn't do it with Matt Stafford. I mean, it just, no.
Okay. All right.
He'll be solid. Like, as a football player, Marvin Jones is a very, very good player to have on your football team. He's good in the red zone, contested catches, great IQ. But from a fantasy asset, he's one of the most frustrating fantasy players I've ever seen. Because he will get picked up. If he's not drafted, he gets picked up after he goes for 2 touchdowns. Then he'll have 4 weeks, nothing. And you just had so much hope for him because the talent is there, but just never quite works out.